I think you could still have a big market approach to doing things in a smaller community.
I can't wrap my head around everything that you do.
I like the adrenaline rush that directing gives you.
That's a quarter of a century, everybody.
The band's called Twisted Chrome.
Nobody talks to you about that in journalism, do they?
I don't think so.
An inside look at the people in front of and behind the cameras at NTV on this episode of Inside NTV.
Thank you for joining us for another episode of Inside NTV, the YouTube podcast project where we're getting to know current and former NTVers, both on camera and off camera. And this week, we finally catch up with one of the NTVers that I helped bring into this world. That sounds a little weird. Hired, maybe makes more sense. Gary Robinson Jr. Gary, how we doing?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm excited for this. Not only did I want to talk to you at some point, but you came to me and said, "Hey, when am I going to get to do my interview?"
Right. So I'm ready. I'm ready to do it. Let's go.
And today's a fun day to do it. When we're recording this is towards the end of July, and depending on when it gets posted. But Gary is filling in on weather on a Friday morning, so this is just after the noon show, so you have a little bit of time. That's part of what I want to ask. I want to get into the who is Gary Robinson Jr. stuff, but first the work stuff. Man, you do a little bit of everything.
Yeah, I do a little bit of everything. I was hired as an MMJ here back in April 2023, and I started here June 19th. And then, like a month in, Tim Wright was like, "Hey, you want to do weather?" I was like, "Okay." I was like, "All right, I'll do it." And trained for a month, and I became the weekend weather person. And then after that, when oh my God, I forget her name. When why am I forgetting?
Lauren Bentley.
There we go.
Yep.
When Lauren had left, then I became the weekend anchor, and I was doing weather and weekend anchor at the same time for months, and I was reporting then too. And yeah, I've been doing weather. I've produced sometimes on the weekends as well. And there was a day where we didn't have a director for severe weather, and I directed for a hot second. So yeah, I've done a little bit of everything.
Oh my goodness!
Done a little bit of everything.
Other than sports and sweeping the floors, I think you pretty much got it all covered.
Yeah, seriously, yeah.
So we'll go one thing at a time. Reporting. So still 3 days a week you're reporting.
Yep.
Usually I think it's Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, but that can obviously change.
Mm-hmm.
What is your favorite part of reporting?
My favorite part of reporting is there's never a dull moment. There is never a dull moment. I feel like even stories where it's like, okay, let me see how I could work this. You end up, I always want to put my all into something. I'm like, okay, I get to meet these people. I get to interact with these people. And I realize that you bring an impact on people, something that I didn't realize until about a month or two when I got here. I mean, yes, people recognize you, but then they come up to you and they're like, your story really touched me, or like they send an email and say, thank you so much for covering this. And there were some kids that came up to me recently, actually, and they were kind of scared to talk to me. And then they came up to me and were like, oh, we saw you climbing the ladder, and were you scared? You do the weather, you do everything. And I'm like, yeah, I do a little bit of everything. And just seeing that impact on them, just 10 years from now, when they're grown, they could be like, hey, remember Gary Robinson Jr. on NTV News? Like he inspired me to do that. And that's where I came from. People who came before me, they inspired me to do what I do now and what I want to do in the future and beyond. So it's exciting.
When they see that you're taking over for David Muir at 5:30 every night on ABC, they'll be like, hey, I know him.
Right. He started at NTV. He was at NTV. Yeah. So we'll see what the future holds, man. I have big plans. I'm a hard worker, and just all glory to God. Just keep on moving forward.
It's awesome. We'll jump around. The way you answered that, I want to go right off of that. Where do you want to end up 5, 10, 20 years from now?
Man, I feel like that's a hard question, because in school, just in life in general, I feel like I've never been put in a box. I was a football player, yeah, but I also acted. I acted, but also had a radio show as well. I'd done a number of things. I was a intern at a local newspaper back home as well. I feel like I've done so much. I did track. I was pretty good at track. I was top 10 in my school's history for the weight, and then one of my friends knocked me out recently. So shout out to my man Adelino, but he knocked me out recently. So I feel like there's nothing that can really label me. I feel like I've done a lot of things, especially in the past 4 or 5 years or so in college and just in life in general. And I just don't want to see myself be put into a box. Like, if I want to be David Muir, let's do it. But I also want to do things outside of that as well and be like, oh man, he's jack of all trades essentially. It's wherever God takes me. But we'll see. And hopefully closer to home. I mean, I love Nebraska, and I was telling Sarah earlier, I'm like, listen, Nebraskans got me. I'm a Nebraska fan. I remember I did say, I will say, I was a Colorado fan for a second, but the tradition and the prestige and living in Nebraska, I'm like, I got to be a Cornhusker now. So
Look at that.
yeah.
We lured you away from prime time.
Indeed,
over
you
there.
lured me away from prime time, and I'm here in the cornfields. I'm like, I love it. Here we go. So yeah, just 10 years from now, wherever God takes me, and hopefully it's something where I'm like, yeah, I love doing this every day, and it can be multiple things.
That's as good of an answer as you're going to get.
Yeah.
You are from New Jersey, so
Indeed.
that is anything but Nebraska for the most part.
Yeah, that's right.
Tell us a little bit about that.
Okay, so I grew up in Montclair, New Jersey. I'm born and raised in Jersey, and I live about 25 minutes outside of New York City driving. And going to New York City is like me going back to Cary right now. It's no thing. And I go to Knicks games, Rangers games, and the Devils, the opposite, play in Jersey. I was a Jersey Nets fan growing up, and Jersey, I love Jersey because it has a little bit of everything. You want beaches? We got it. You want to go to a casino? We got it. We have cities, we have sports teams, we have literally everything there. It's great. Like I said, we have New York City there. You want to go to Philly? Philly's only 2 hours away, and Maryland is only 4 hours away. You want to go to Baltimore? Baltimore Harbor. Baltimore is actually really only 3.5 hours away.
Okay.
And I'm very proud to say that I'm from Jersey. There's a lot of famous people from Jersey as well. I can go on and on and on about famous people from Jersey. But yeah, and the thing about Jersey that I love, I believe Jersey is one of the top 5 smallest states in terms of size, but top 10 in population.
Wow.
Everybody knows everybody. Like, I can go to a restaurant and I'll have the waitress or waiter, and I'll be talking to them, and they'll be like, do you know so-and-so? And I'm like, yeah. They'll be like, that's my cousin. I was like, oh my God, I was just talking to them. Like, North Jersey is so small, and South Jersey, it's a funny thing because South and North Jersey are like 2 different worlds, we say, but it's everybody knows somebody somehow. So I always say, like, you always got to be careful around there because you never know who you're going to bump into.
That's really cool.
Definitely.
It's good to learn that too.
Yeah.
When I was in the process of hiring for your position, this was back when I was quasi-interim news director for a little bit, and I was checking out references. First, I talked to you, and it was great, but you got to do your diligence, and you got to call references. Mm-hmm. So I looked through, and on the list, refresh me of his name.
Jim Axelrod.
Jim Axelrod, CBS News reporter. He's covered wars in Iraq and everything else in between. And so I'm a news dork, and I go, ooh, I get to talk to Jim Axelrod. This is cool. So we end up talking, and he couldn't have said enough good things about Cary. And I want to share this story because I've told other people in the newsroom this, and I think it's fun to put it out there. And I'm talking to him, and he's from your hometown. Yeah. So that's how he knew you, and he picked you out, and he said, this is who I want to mentor and really, really help. And he told me that he would run through a brick wall for this guy.
Wow. That's awesome.
And I'm like, okay, I think I'm good.
That's it. That's the one right there. I actually have a funny story how we ended up connecting. So to go back to my senior year in high school, high schools have superlatives in the yearbooks, and there was an issue with the superlatives where we felt like there wasn't enough diversity. Montclair is very diverse. There's one public high school smack dead middle in the town, and everybody goes to it. So when you live in a town like that, everybody knows each other. I grew up with my friends. We live on the same area of Montclair, the South End. That's where we all live and grew up at, walking distance from one another. Like, my mother and their mothers were friends growing up. It's that kind of thing. And there was an issue with the superlatives. We went to this principal. We were like, we have to redo this. Like, there's not enough diversity. There's not enough Black representation. We feel like it doesn't look like Montclair. We know Montclair is way more diverse than this. And he was like, maybe we might do it, whatever. Kind of like moving their feet a little slow. And then my friend Misty, she said, "Hey, I'm hosting a talent show, a little cabaret, and I also do poetry. I didn't mention that. So I do poetry. I don't do it as much as I used to, but I was like, okay, I'll do a poem, and I did a poem revolving around the issues with the diversity and the superlatives. Little did I know that one of the hosts was Jim Axelrod's son, who I went to high school with. And Jim Axelrod is in the stands, and I do the poem. It's a standing ovation. And then one of my friends, Jacob, he's a really good beatboxer. So he beatboxes, and I'm in the crowd, cheering him on. He pulls me from the crowd onto the stage, and I freestyle. I just say what comes to my head and just rap whatever comes to my head, and it rhymes. It sounds really good. I mean, I grew up kind of just freestyling, was walking down Willowdale Avenue in Montclair, and another standing ovation. And after that, after the show, Jim Axelrod and I met, and he talked to me, and we got contact information, and there you go. That's it. It came from a talent show. Yep,
That's awesome.
That's how we connected, just like that. Yep.
That whole freestyle thing helps when you do the weather, by the way.
Yeah, seriously, yeah. And I was in acting growing up. When you do improvisation classes, there's not a moment to think. It's like if somebody says something outlandish, you have to play off of that, and that's what it is. And my friend Dylan and I, we used to walk up and down Willowdale Avenue after school, and we would just have like little like mini rap battles and things like that. So it's staying on your toes. It's good in the news business for sure.
What I mean, obviously you applied for the job, but what made you choose here? Obviously, I was part of choosing you to come here, but what made you go, this works?
You know what's funny about Nebraska and what I've heard? The people in Nebraska are like no other. That's what I've heard. And it's funny living in New Jersey and you're like, Nebraska, why would I go there? Like, I want to stay closer to home. But the things I've heard about Nebraska, University of Nebraska, I've never lived in the Midwest. I've never been to the Midwest. I've never been to Chicago before. Like the Midwest is uncharted territory for me. I've been down south, been to the West Coast. Midwest was different. And yes, I had other opportunities, other places, but I'm like, I feel like Nebraska is the best fit for me. And to be quite honest with you, in college, going into my senior year, I wasn't too sure what I wanted to do. I was like, maybe I'll work in radio, but I'm like, I might try this TV thing, this reporting thing. So my last semester of college is when I took this reporting class, and my professor, he was an actual news reporter. Like, imagine Dave Greek just teaching a class before he comes into work. That was him, and he was award-winning, Emmy winner, and he motivated me and pushed me and was like, okay, you can get a job. Like, you're good. Like, you're the star of the class. You can do this. And he pushed me, and said some things that I didn't like, but that's a good thing. Sometimes you need somebody to push you like that, and here I am.
That is the best type of professor you can have in journalism or TV or radio. Somebody who's done it, somebody that obviously was very good at it.
Yeah.
And that way you learn from them rather than just from a book.
Exactly.
I think that helps a ton.
Exactly. He would work in the morning, and our class was at, I believe, 3:00. Yeah, 3:00, and he would come teach us. And he was hands-on. He was a great professor. I mean, he was hard on us, and I appreciate that.
That's awesome. What's your favorite part about the Kearney area or Nebraska in general so far? You've been here a little over a year.
My favorite part about the Nebraska area is the peace. Not only with just going outside and walking around Yanny Park and things like that, but the peace within people. Back home in Jersey, it can get hectic. Like I said, everybody lives on top of each other, kind of, traffic and all the New York, New Jersey stereotypes. Since I've been out here, I cannot tell you, I don't think I've ever heard a horn being blown. That blows my mind. Maybe I am oblivious to it because like usually back home it's boo, 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 every 5 seconds and there's traffic all over the place, which gets frustrating. But I'm like, I can leave for work if it takes 25 minutes to get to work and I leave 25 minutes before, I can get to work on time. Like if you want to get the time on time at work, you live 25 minutes away, you have to leave an hour before work back home in Jersey. But it's the peace within people as well. People come up to you and say, "Hey, how are you?" And they know your name. They ask about you, ask about your family. This one lady didn't even know I worked in the news, and she was asking me about my family. And then she asked me, "What do you do?" I said, "I work on the news." She was like, "Oh my God, like, I have to check you out now." So just, people wanted to speak to me because I'm Gary, not, I guess, Gary Robinson Jr., I guess. So that's really cool.
That is very cool. On the other side of that, I will tell you that we get more comments, and so do I, about you, positive things, of course, uh, because people just like Gary.
Cool.
It's just his aura or his being or whatever just oozes out of him that you just can't not like Gary. Like,
That's awesome.
as a person, and I think that helps draw to the television side of it. And I don't want to speak for our boss, but I'm guessing part of the reason why you were tabbed to do the weekend weather at one point was because you just feel like somebody that they want to watch on television. And it's like, he's got great personality. Let's stick him in front of the weather wall and have him talk with no script for 3 minutes. He can do that. And it's worked. I think that really helped you. Obviously, you can still do it. You did it this morning.
Yep.
But it's helped you round out even more being pushed like that. And I think it helps your reporting. It obviously helps your anchoring, being able to go on the fly and all that stuff. So, I mean, not to go to something slightly negative, the story was negative, the assassination attempt of Donald Trump.
Mm-hmm.
And that wasn't that long ago since we've taped this, and you anchored that night.
Yeah.
It wasn't Dave and Colleen, it was you on a Saturday having to deal with that, and you figured out how to take a very big story, a national story, and to be able to handle that on a local level.
Absolutely. Indeed, yeah. That was big. I'm a competitive person. That's just how I am. Just being from the East Coast. Like I said, everybody lives so close together. Everybody wants to be somebody. Everybody wants to be the big dog. So seeing David Muir on TV and Rachel Scott on ABC World News, and I look at them and I go, I can do that. And you know what? Not only am I going to do that, I'm going to do that better than them. I want to take their elements and I'm be like, all right, I'm going to do that. If not just as good, even better. So that's just how I feel, and that's no diss to them, but that's just how I am. I'm competitive. You want to be the best. That's just where I'm come from. That's where I'm cut from. The cloth I'm cut from.
That's as good of a outlook as I think you can probably have, especially in this business, because it is competitive to begin with.
Yes, it is. It is definitely competitive. I look at other people's reels and I'm like, okay, I can do that. And I go into my next story and I'm like, all right, I'm going to put as many pieces as I can with this and try to come up with the best story today. And yeah, just seeing people like Steve White work and just learning from him, not only speaking to him, but just watching his stories and being like, okay, I can implement that in my story so I can be the best person I can. Because yes, I'm competitive, but a smart person knows that they know nothing at all. So I'm just working and trying to pick pieces not only from Steve, but Alexis and you, even our boss who was a former reporter,
Mm-hmm.
Dave, Colleen, just picking pieces from everybody because everybody can give me something because they've been here longer than I have,
Mm-hmm.
way longer than I have. They've been working and not dating anybody, but been working longer than I've been alive.
That's true.
So,
very true.
So.
Do you have a favorite story that you've done as a news reporter in the past year or so?
Oh, favorite story
or
I've
one
done.
Of, even if you don't want to.
Two that come to mind
Okay.
was when I did this story on my cousin Wayne Brooks. I refer to him as Uncle Wayne. I love implementing my family in stories, as you saw my grandmother, my grandfather, my mother was in the story. I my mother on my father on Father's Day. My cousin, I had a cousin's family reunion one time when the Jersey earthquake happened. But him passing away was obviously devastating for my entire family, and it still is. And sometimes I'm like, man, I can't believe he's not here. It's just something that you don't believe. And being able to honor him, and I asked his daughters, Taylor and Deja, like, can I do this? Because yes, we're cousins, but at the end of the day, like, that's their father.
Mm-hmm.
So I said, I want to honor him this way, and they said, absolutely. And I did it, and it was emotional for me, but I'm glad I did it. Got a lot off my chest because when that happened, I wasn't even at NTV for a month. I was new here. I was missing family, and family member passes away. It was devastating, but I'm glad I did the story, and thank you and the rest of NTV for allowing me to do that.
Mm-hmm.
And one of my favorite stories that come to mind is the Elm Creek time capsule.
Oh yeah,
that was fun. Shout out to everybody in Elm Creek. Every time I go to Elm Creek, people are like, "You did such a great job on that time capsule story," and I'm like, that was an amazing story. I mean, it felt like the town told the story itself. I mean, just the excitement in the air from all the way from the kids to the adults. It was amazing. It was perfect. I just feel like I played off of the town. So it's a great town.
that's awesome. That was a fun story. I think you had a Facebook Live in there. They were doing the whole
I
deal.
think it was like 980 people in the Facebook Live at one point. It was a lot of people in there checking out what was this time capsule that was over 100 years old.
I got a question for you that I've asked several of the folks that I've done these interviews with that have been around several years, would be described as veteran talent. But I'll ask you the same question. What advice would you give to a young person coming through college that wants to get into this business, whether they want to be a reporter, an anchor, or a weather person, because you've done all three and you've done them all well? What kind of advice would you give them?
This is not only for reporting, but this is anything in life. It's okay to be scared, but still keep moving forward. Just moving to Nebraska and starting off, you're probably going to move somewhere where you're like, I never thought I would live here. That's okay. It's going to be scary, but how much I've grown over this time is amazing. Just as a person, as a man, as a brother. I'm the oldest of two younger sisters. As a friend, as a son, just grown so much, and it has me appreciating my family, my friends back home, my friends here as well. Just even more. It just makes you just more appreciative of things. Living alone, and sometimes it gets tough at times. There's gonna be times of doubt, just like anything in life. But that's okay. You just keep on pushing. You keep on moving forward, and whatever you believe in. I'm a believer in God, and if you keep your faith where it belongs, and you stay attached to a good amount of people and with your family, the sky is really the limit. There's nothing you can't do. So yeah, that's the advice I would give.
That's great. I don't think Gary's ever met a stranger. But also here at NTV, we've got enough younger people too. Not saying the people more my age and older don't hang out, but we have stuff. But you have enough younger people your age that you do have friends you can kind of run around with, and I'm sure you've got friends in town too.
Indeed, yeah. I hang out with some of the coworkers from time to time, and hang out with some of my friends outside of work who don't work here. And yeah, and there's times where I spend time alone as well. I mean, I may play video games. I may listen to records. I go to Buffalo Records and collect records and
Nice.
CDs sometimes, because I like the way it sounds. A record sounds different than when you hear it in the headphones or a streaming service. And I'm a geek for this. I like opening up the vinyl, opening up the CD, and reading the artwork. Who wrote this song? It's like, oh my God, I didn't know he wrote that song. And you Google that person, and you find out what other music they wrote. And then I just go on like this. It's like putting pieces together. I'm a big music history geek, especially when it comes to hip hop, being that I only grew up 35 minutes outside of where hip hop originated in the Bronx. So, I'm a big music history person.
That's the reporter in you going in and digging out, trying to find all that stuff.
Exactly, and it comes like second nature. Like my friends are like, "You're like a music encyclopedia." I'm like, I think so. And there's other avenues of music I want to tap into. Like when I moved to Nebraska, I never thought about listening to country music. A lot of people do listen to country music. I'm like, okay, I have to get into the country side of things, okay, to relate to some of the people.
Nice. One last question, I'll let you go because you've been here a long time today. Sports. Why are you not a Giants fan and instead you're a Steelers fan?
Okay, that's a very good answer, and that's a very good question. I have an easy answer for that. So the first Super Bowl I remember, like the buzz about was Giants and Patriots. I was in first grade. It was a big deal in school. It was the Giants, and I remember watching it. And David Tyree actually from Montclair. He's from where I'm from. Went to Montclair High School. Graduate of 1999. I'm pretty sure. So when you got that helmet catch, that was huge. The following year, Steelers and Cardinals go to the Super Bowl. My father and my mother are Steelers fans. They were Steelers fans before they met one another. So
Okay.
it was a match made in heaven. It seems it's Steelers heaven. It seems like. So, my father is a very very chill guy. To himself. And when the Steelers won that Super Bowl, he was so happy. Like it was a excitement that you would see like in like a child, I guess. And this is like a 45-year-old man. He was so excited. I'm looking at his excitement and I'm like, wow, that team meant so much to him. Like, I gotta be a Steelers fan. It's one of those things where, like, I'm a Mets fan, and Mets have been bad my entire life. But if the Mets were to win a World Series, we'll see what happens. Like, I would, the 8-year-old Gary would come out because it's like, I've known this team my entire life, and you get to see them win a championship. It's something that some people don't understand, and that's how I felt for him. I mean, yes, he's seen Terry Bradshaw and the Lynn Swans win one, but seeing it, again, it's just like the first one, just as sweet as the first one.
That's awesome. Gary Robinson Jr., I appreciate your time. You're a very fantastic person to know and get to work with, and I hope everybody out there gets to enjoy checking out Gary on the news and weather and whatever else we've got you doing throughout the week as well. Thank you again for another episode of Inside NTV. We'll chat with somebody else next week.